Hi everyone, my name is Johanna Weiman and I'm going to do my video for quiz 2. It's my quiz review. For this I'm going to do question 4 on, well at least my version of question 4 on my test that I took. The question states, James is hooked up to an IV for his weekly medication at the clinic. Instead of his usual meds, the IV infuses lemon juice into James's vein and he dies. The clinic workers all swear that they have no idea how the lemon juice got into the IV bag, but James's family sues anyways, since no one but clinic staff ever had access to the IV. The clinic's defense is that James's family can't prove anyone at the clinic did anything wrong. Based on these facts and the general principles explained in the textbook, how can the family overcome this defense? So, a lot of these options that were given down below could be a part and could be the answer to this question, but honestly we had to pick what was the best choice for this one. So I'm going to go through the choices. The family can argue that the clinic's actions were unreasonable. So obviously the fact that lemon juice got into the IV bag, it's not reasonable that lemon juice would be anywhere near IV fluid. So obviously they were unreasonable, but I decided to keep going after that one. The family could argue that lemon juice infusion was foreseeable. So obviously you would have to look at past events, and then people would have had to know in advance that the lemon juice was going to be infused into the IV bag, and where they could say, hey, don't do that. But obviously no one knew that the lemon juice would be in the IV bag. They would expect the IV medication to be in the IV bag. So that's obviously not correct. The family can argue that the clinic's actions constitute gross negligence. Gross negligence is on page 80 of the textbook. And then for gross negligence, it says that it's the failure to use even a small amount of care to avoid foreseeable harm. So the key word on that one is foreseeable harm. It was obviously not foreseeable harm. It's just harm in general. They obviously didn't use a small amount of care, like by having lemon juice infused into a patient's IV bag, but the harm was not foreseeable because no one had any idea that that would ever be an option to, infuse into someone's IV bag. The family can argue that the clinic has a history of storing lemon juice right next to the medications. They could if we had those facts, but in this question, in this prompt for this quiz, we don't have a history from the clinic that they do that to other patients or anything. So it can be assumed that that's not going to be an option to choose because we have no idea that there's a history. We wouldn't know based on these facts. The family can argue that the clinic committed negligence per se. It's also on page 80 of the textbook. Negligence per se, a jury must find that there was unreasonableness in the defendant's conduct. Certain actions or omissions are impermissible under any and all circumstances. The failure to use reasonable care to avoid harm to another person. So reasonable care, obviously reasonable care would be acted upon when someone was to make sure that no lemon juice was to be getting into IV bag to be infused into James's arm. But instead, I looked at that one, and there obviously is unreasonable, and that was my first choice, so I was thinking, maybe that's the first one, or maybe that's the choice. But then when you go into re ipsa loquitur, which is the last part, the family can argue res ipsa loquitur, that's on page 78 of the textbook, and this is what made the most sense. It's a Latin term that means the event speaks for itself. It is a doctrine used by a plaintiff who is having trouble proving that the defendant breached a duty or the defendant's conduct was unreasonable. Like it says in the prompt, the clinic workers all swear that they have no idea how it got into the IV bag, and the clinic's defense is that James' family can't prove anyone at the clinic did anything wrong. So that's the exact same thing from res ipsa loquitur, the fact that there's no direct evidence to point out the defendant's behavior in the situation, and that it doesn't commonly occur where lemon juice was infused into a IV bag. So I chose to pick this one, and I got it right. This was one of those questions that commonly I feel like is a common occurrence on some of these quizzes in this class or any of other Miss Johnson's classes, which I do appreciate. I feel like it helps me make sure I go through all the choices and you don't single anything out. immediately, and make sure you go through everything, because some things can't apply. It always depends. So I chose the last one, and I got 4 out of 4. So that was my quiz review for this question. If anybody has any comments or questions about it, feel free to leave them in the thing below. Thank you so much.